Hi.
Hi, it is 6:30, right?
Yeah,
Why are there 8 people in the waiting room?
I have no idea.
So confused.
Nicole Luckfield,
Like that.
Gina, Kelly Bafano, Miss Jorgensen.
Oy. And we're gonna run out of spots.
Now, do I just let anyone in? Because I mean, there's some people that are coming in with like coded names.
Yeah, I mean, it's a public meeting.
Okay,
Definitely don't unmute them.
okay.
All right. Well, let me just double check all my settings. All right, mute participants, do not allow them to unmute themselves. Don't allow them to rename themselves. Play sound when someone joins or leaves. Bing, bing. 10 people wait. They're waiting a half an hour. It's 6 o'clock.
Petroccioni.
Crap. Okay, what are you gonna do? All right. Just for the record, I made it start recording so I wouldn't forget. I make it start recording the second I start the meeting, so we're being recorded right now. Video, audio, and video. So, oh my gosh. All right, what else do I need to do? Chat. The chat is going to be not everyone in the meeting. It's going to be host only. Participant chats with host only. You know, Suzanne wanted to see it. I think I'm just going to try and text it to her, hear the questions, so she at least has a heads up.
Yeah.
So let in our board members. We'll let in. It's so funny. Regina is in. I mean, the last couple meetings with Regina, it was I'm trying to like have the meeting go, and people are taking votes, and things happening, and I'm trying to help her log on, and she's like, "It's not letting me on. It's not letting me on." And she's like, "Call in." But now that she's not on the board,
She can get on anything now.
anyway. I think that Joe Alessi's name is familiar. I think I saw that in the presentation. So some of these people are probably going to be committee members. I'm going to shrink that down.
Chapology.
Can I leave it closed? They just keep coming. Actually, it's just 11, so then someone leaving. That 7VXSVH.
Yeah.
I think I've seen that one before. I feel like it's somebody that we know.
It's probably a cell phone or something.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna step away for a second. Okay, I'm back. Should we admit D?
Yeah.
What's a D?
Hey, D. Did you unmute him or not?
I don't know if he joined with audio. It doesn't show.
It doesn't show him at all.
Oh, now it's showing. Now it's showing.
I'm gonna minimize the chat.
What's up, brother?
What's going on, people? How we doing?
Oh, just a little stressy.
No, not that. Not that.
Well, I think we can only have 100 people in. So here's the other thing with that is I was going to log in with this so I could make sure that I was presenting appropriately. But that'll take up a space, so I'm not going to do that.
I feel like you should do that because it's not your fault if it's only 100. You did not set that up, sweetie. It's not on you.
Yeah, I should have recognized it though.
I told it's Paul's fault.
Oh boy. So what Chatham had, because I texted the district clerk there, and she doesn't do anything with the technology. She's just meeting. And I was like, how do you get that gig? And she said they were supposed to have signed up for 500 people. And then Sal was in charge of doing things, and she said that, I'm saying stupid things here.
If you 500, you might have to deal with 500.
Yeah, she said we could only have, we did like the upgraded Zoom and paid for, we could have at least 500, but there's a button of permissions that you have to click to have more than 100 participants, which we know Sal to do it. Anyway, Lucas, as people are trying to get in, promoted them to a participant somehow, so he was able to allow 2 more people to get in. 200 more.
That's unnecessary.
I know.
It's going to be available back on the website, right?
I wonder if I should send it to Aaron right now. Say, if you're having trouble logging on, the entire meeting will be posted online tomorrow.
Yeah. We have a gap. It could just be all these.
True.
Sweet, I got you. Whatever it is, I got you.
Okay. I'm going to text Aaron right now. There's only 15 people in. I was real nervous because I log on with Len half an hour early to make sure we know what we're doing, and there's already 4 people waiting, and by the time we get him unmuted, there's 12 people in there. And I'm like, it's 30 minutes early. So anyway.
Is there a way that we can charge to be this, to get some money into the district?
Oh, we should charge admission.
Absolutely.
I don't think we can.
And you like interview up, otherwise someone's coming to take your spot for it.
Right? Let's just randomly kick people out. When somebody else gets in, but everybody has, like, we just keep rotating people.
Listen, like a restaurant, you sit there for an hour, you gotta get in, get out, you got a table, then you can get back in. Cool. Someone else is online.
They have a rolling PayPal deal, so for every 30 seconds of audio, you have to pay $10.
You be there, you just can't hear. The value is in the
18 people with 20 minutes. All right, people.
You gotta listen to names. Who are the people that we should be mocking right now?
Well, Regina Rose is one of them.
Who's next?
Nicole Luckfield.
Yep, she's number 2.
I could text her, but I'm not gonna.
Kelly Bufano, Ashley Hopkins Benton. This one just says Steve. It could be anybody. I don't think it's Steve Murata. He usually turns on with iPad. Mrs. Jorgensen.
That's just me.
Yeah. Melissa, which I don't think is our Melissa, but she would have been right in there first. There's a Tammy, which could be Barlow or Myers. Joe is one of our people. Amy O'Shea could be Anna O'Shea's mom. Maybe not. Frank Bevins. There's a Kelly, Catherine, Gary Wall, Frank Wood. Good God, there's 23 of them. And we don't even have the board and administration. That's 15 right there.
So wait, so there's nothing important happening tonight. Why are these people even involved?
They're real concerned about what their kids are doing in the fall. We talked about them sent out a thing.
The agenda is only like a page long. Why are they doing
One presentation. They may get to ask questions, but she said we were only going to do 15 minutes of questions. So
exactly. So now, like, seeing is absolutely prime. We can charge whatever we want.
Imagine being that 100 person and we fall off. You're like, oh, no.
Wait, so how many? You have 5 committees, so there's at least 20 people that have to be on?
No, It's Suzanne, Andrea, Craig, Tony, Craig. No, same guy. Mike, Marcella, Steve, Peg. That's 8 plus 9 board members.
18. And me.
And you guys.
There's 20. So we got 80 seats.
Yeah.
Open.
No. I wonder if I can. Is there any way that I could like sell my spot? I got all.
Right?
You know, there.
I'm sure you could.
Now there's some Melissa.
I'm sorry, I have never knew.
Len, we're going to unmute John Willery, which I'm not sure. I think he comes on as J-Wee.
Okay.
So, no, you guys are good with the actual that process?
Yeah, I think. I don't see any board members yet.
No, I'm waiting to see.
But, at the last one, the organizational meeting, which is a big meeting, and we're doing a lot of stuff, it was like 5 minutes before the meeting, and it was just me and Suzanne. And what did I do wrong? I said something wrong. So.
Somebody's coming in with the name Booyah Steve. That's not right. You're not allowed. That's my name. Oh, Suzanne.
Should we tell her?
Do you remember to mute me? Because I'm getting really comfortable now.
Hi, Suzanne.
Hi.
How are you?
All right. How are you?
Fine.
What do we have on? Dwight, Len, and you?
Yeah.
Okay.
I know
Picture. Where are you?
I'm here.
You are?
always ask-
No, I just remember the shirt on it. I didn't want to forget. I didn't try on it.
So Suzanne, I don't want to worry you about things, but Chatham, Greg let us know Chatham had that they had more people attending than Zoom would allow, and we have a cap of 100 people.
Oh, we're gonna have more than 100.
Yeah. So I don't think we can fix that tonight.
What do we need to?
Uh,
Can we swap? That takes what, 250? Oh my God, we can't do this for 100.
well, we can put it. I mean, we can put the meeting up on the website tomorrow for anyone that doesn't get on.
No way upgrade right now?
I can try, but I don't know.
Do you know, Lynn?
Well, there's gonna be upgraded, but I don't know if there's gonna be nighttime once you upgrade it. If it's got to be for after, you can go ahead and just upgrade it now. But let me see. Actually, Minnie, you're signed on to your account.
Yeah.
So you have to go in under your
I'll
account.
give you a credit card, Mindy, if you can do it right now.
Did I load in?
No.
No. Oh, you're no.
I haven't been yet.
Okay.
I mean, it says buy now on here.
Yep. All right. We'll try it. Your credit card.
You might not have this in.
It may have remembered.
Okay.
Yeah, there's already on file.
Monthly. Meeting. Well, it says I'll receive an email within 24 hours confirming the changes. If that allows us or not, we'll find out, I guess.
Go back into your into your account settings and see if it's upgraded.
All right. Yep, it says possibly 500.
Okay, so you should be good now.
All right,
You putting out fires.
It's all good.
we're up to 500.
And it's instant?
Yep.
Oh, you're
It's Paul's credit card, so I think I just did per month, so I think it should be $50. I don't think I do time, but we can adjust it with people.
Okay.
Do you want me to start letting in like Andrea Williams and stuff?
Are we sure it's showing? Mindy, no, you can have 500 down there?
Yes, it's showing.
All right, okay, yes.
But that's not.
A little heart attack.
I know, I'm so sorry. We're gonna blame Craig because Craig was the one that brought it up. We can also celebrate Craig because he let us know before I hit 100.
Why does my picture look yellow?
It's the kind of lighting you have.
Is it? It's
Yeah.
terrible.
Are most pillows yellow though?
What?
Pillows.
Okay, you know,
Did you say yes to John Willer or no?
No, let's get the board in first.
Okay.
I like the pictures.
I'm not seeing board members, but
I'm not seeing it yet either.
someone will come in with an iPad.
Andrea. Hold on, I just had you on mute.
Oh, you can go now.
Sure.
I made one co-host, but I didn't have to manage everybody.
I'm just erasing.
What was that?
Yeah,
Oh,
I
yeah.
see ya. I think when people raise their hand, they go to the top to unmute them.
Yeah.
So,
I took down because I don't have anything else.
looking at the agenda, I didn't even have them vote on approving the meeting. There's literally nothing to vote on.
I almost wondered if they should vote to adopt them, but we do that anyway.
Yeah.
This is preliminary anyway.
We're 73 already. We're 58.
With no board members.
We know board members in yet.
Thank goodness I created that.
And I kind of wanted to, but I didn't have any permissions and sure exactly how we were billed.
I'm just glad it was instant.
Yeah, me too. I thought it would be, to be honest.
A lot of people keep signing off and coming back in.
Should we start letting them in?
Anthony Moran.
Yeah, you can let them in.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm not seeing the board members. I think they come in at the bottom. Is that the same one?
Yeah, I'm just scroll as they're coming in. I'm scrolling.
You guys can start letting them in.
Just let people in.
Yeah, I mean, it's like 5 of now. Let's.
Okay. We can just click it all then.
Okay.
And then we'll have to look for board members to unmute. When you can name people, I'll look for our board members and keep them unmuted. Oh, looking for board members. So it's one.
Operations Analytics Committee. You can stand. We have a diverse group on this committee for this committee under our task force. And Michael Brandon, our business manager, is one of the chairs, and he's going to share their recommendations and their work with you.
Suzanne, and I want to thank all the members for their input from staff and from our parent members. The operations included transportation, overseen by Dan Doyle, and food services, overseen by Todd Grigley, and we also included our athletic director, Tim Stewart, on athletics. First, we'll start with the overall plan for food services, and we just want to put the caveat, this is overseen by the observable, and all school meals are provided in conjunction with the health and safety guidelines in compliance with child nutrition programs and requirements. So what would that include? We're looking to streamline things, and with the idea of PPE and distancing as much as possible. So we're looking at a grab-and-go style breakfast like kids can get once they come to us. The same would be to coast for lunches today. We will temporarily eliminate the use of any of the vending machines. And then we created a plan. We're in the process of creating plans based on grade level, K through 5. The lunches in the classrooms, and they would be delivered there. 6 through 8 is a combination of eating in a classroom or cafeteria with social distancing. And 9 through 12 students will eat in the cafeteria. We're going to set up, replace all the tables that are in the cafeteria with desks so they can have the proper social distancing. Additionally, we will be offering meals to at-home students in accordance with the USDA guidelines. We are in the process also of establishing ID cards. So there's, eliminating any of the touch pads at the registers. And we will, as we do, continue on individualized healthcare plans for students with food allergies. And we have a school bus account program that we set up a number of years ago, in which you can fund your lunch accounts. And we have had great success with those, and we're strongly encouraging that going forward to eliminate cash purchasing as much as possible. Next, taking a look at transportation. Obviously, transportation is a big part of the beginning of the day, and what we're looking at is masks required on school buses at all times. Social distancing on the bus with occupancy planned at 33 to 50% capacity in assigned seating. We are looking for the help of parents and guardians, and we're encouraging and asking to drive when possible to help reduce the number of students on each bus. As a safety precaution, we have looked at a lot of possibilities, and we're trying to get the capacity of to scan temperatures each morning while children board the bus. We think that we were looking to do the temperatures, and we want to get it right at the beginning of the day. And so we're looking at what we can do as far as doing that at bus boarding. Parents and guardians must also screen their children for fever and signs of COVID prior to getting on the bus. And obviously, sick students must be kept at home. When we are setting up our assigned seating, members of the same household, which will help with our occupancy of the buses, are going to be required to sit together. Another important aspect for our program for returning is the buses will be cleaned and disinfected between runs and will be sanitized on a daily basis.
I just want to jump in, Mindy,
Sure.
if you can stay back for 1 second.
Yeah.
Just two things that I wanted to also share is that we will be sending out a survey to parents very soon to ask whether or not you will be using the bus in the morning, the afternoon, or both, or not at all. And I recognize, and we have had conversations that asking parents to drive if possible is going to create more traffic on our campus. And we are already in discussions and looking at alternate patterns of traffic flow and staggering times for parents to arrive to help make that increase as smooth as possible in the morning and in the afternoon. Thanks, Mindy.
And the last area we want to report out on is athletics, and our athletic director, Tim Stewart, has been keeping us apprised of all of the happenings with athletics in Section 2. This is one area in which we don't necessarily have to create our own plan. We are specifically waiting for the New York State Athletic Association to provide that guidance. And what they have done likewise is they've created their own task force to examine all the potential impacts, scheduling, and they have put out that athletics is on a pause until September 21st, and they're waiting for future guidance and direction from the governor's office. So the fall season has not been canceled. They have paused it until 2 weeks into the return of school. They have canceled the fall regional state championships and waived the 7-day practice rule. If we get to the 21st and reach that pause, and the direction of the governor's office is to cancel the fall season, this task force has already begun to examine scheduling of 3 condensed seasons, and starting possibly in January through the end of June. The dates are not set, but they are looking to condense those seasons so there would still be all the sports played, but just in a condensed version in the second semester. And continuing with our athletics, our district facilities are still currently closed. However, we are currently reviewing the potential reopening. We know that some districts have done that, but we are looking for additional guidance from the Department of Health and some input from our attorney. So we will continue to look at what facilities we can reopen on campus to our youth groups and into the public. With that, the next area of committee was our health and safety. And again, that included members of administration, faculty and staff, and our parents, and consultation with the Columbia County Department of Health. So at that, I was going to turn it over to the assistant principal at the high school, Marcela Sanchez, and she's going to go into some further on health and safety.
Thank you, Michael. And I do also want to say, like everyone else, we're really grateful for all the help and support and participation we've gotten from the community, especially when it comes to health and safety. We had a lot of tough discussions and decisions to make, and at the heart of it, we kept in mind, and our #1 goal was the health and safety and the well-being of our staff and our students. So every decision we made. We also had our school nurse coordinator involved in our committee, who was in almost constant communication with the Columbia County Department of Health. So when we had something that we were unsure of, or we weren't the recommendations have changed over time, we consulted with them as to what's the best practice and how we can, again, keep our students as safe as possible. So for our PPE, which is personal protective equipment, we are requiring all staff and they'll be provided with a mask to wear. Students will also be expected to come to school with a mask or an approved cloth face covering. In the event that the staff or the student are not able to or do not have those, we will be providing disposable face masks for them as needed. And then they will be wearing their masks, but we will have designated mask breaks throughout the day when it is safe and appropriate for them to do so. We also will be doing health checks, and parents and guardians will need to screen their children for fever or the other signs and symptoms of COVID-19 prior to them getting on the bus. And just as we talked about on the slide about buses, if a student is sick or have any of those symptoms, we will, those students will need to be kept home. And the same thing goes for our staff members as well. And as an additional safety precaution, we are looking into how we can do the temperature checks for students while they're boarding the bus, and also how we can scan their temperatures if they're being dropped off for students. And that would happen prior to them even getting out of the vehicle, so we can make sure that if there's any concerns that they are not entering the school building with a fever. In addition, temperature checks and a daily screening questionnaire will be in place for all staff. So staff will complete it daily before coming to work, as well as we're asking them to check their temperature at home before they even come to school. And we will also be having scanners at the main entrance, and they won't be granted entry without having the satisfactory temperature taken. The same goes for any visitors or contractors or vendors. We are limiting visitors greatly. We're not going to have the general people into the building. However, there are certain people that have to come in based on deliveries and different vendors, and again, we do have capital projects, so there will be some movement there. And anyone will also have their temperature checked. And in addition, they have to complete the screening questionnaire upon arrival before we allow them into the building. Go to the next one. So we are going to follow the social distancing rules as outlined by the governor and the education department. So it will be a requirement of at least 6 feet, and desks and seating will be placed 6 feet apart. We've gone around to the rooms in the building and made sure, based on our numbers and our academic plan, that we have the capacity to be able to ensure that the kids are at least 6 feet apart in all directions from everyone else. So we've worked really hard on that. The students and the staff will be wearing their face coverings or their masks, which we talked about, as I said before, except for when they're eating and when they're having their mask breaks throughout the day. We are going to have extra supplies so that there's not a sharing of materials like pens and pencils, etc., erasers. We're not going to have those, lend them out and give them back. We're going to just have additional supplies for the students. The restrooms will be limited at any given time, and they will also be disinfected and cleaned throughout the day frequently to ensure that those are safe. Any gatherings, events, and assemblies and field trips at this time have been canceled until further notice. We are going to revisit this as we probably in late September when we see how the reopening goes and how we're going. So we're not canceling everything for good, but we really don't feel that it's prudent to have those events happening given our current situation. In the hallways, the transitioning for the high school and for the middle school will be directional. So they'll go in the direction, we'll have signs on or labels on the ground of where they should be going. And we will not be having no use of lockers at this time. Again, there's no way to maintain a social distance when your lockers are, right next to each other. So there will be no use of lockers. And the teachers will also be encouraged to keep their windows and doors open whenever possible to increase that ventilation and that circulation of air in those classrooms. You do the next one. And in the case, unfortunately, there will probably, whether it's COVID or not, we're going to have ill people in the building at some time. You can oftentimes check your temperature in the morning, and then by noontime, you're not feeling well. So we do have a designated and supervised isolation room in each building. We worked over the last couple of weeks, and our nurse coordinator, Michelle Warner, has gone to the buildings, and we've gone and actually she's checked out, and we have the room set up and ready and designated as to where those would be. Any staff member will be immediately sent home and required to contact their healthcare provider when it comes to if they're experiencing any symptoms. If a student or staff reports a positive test to the school, our nurse coordinator will notify the Department of Health for any additional guidance, which will include the contact tracing, which we will also be helping with. And we're going to keep records of, again, people entering and exiting, and when common spaces are used, which we've pretty much eliminated, but we're going to make sure we keep records of who is where, so that if it comes to that and we have to work with the Department of Health, we'll have all that information readily available for them. The district will also be working with the Department of Health regarding any partial or full school closings when it comes to those cases. So once it'll come in either way, either a parent will notify us that they've got a positive result, or a child has got a positive result, or a staff member has got a positive result, and then we contact the Department of Health immediately, or the Department of Health will be the one to contact us because they get notified first of the positive results. In either case, we'll be working closely to figure out, do we have to close the school? Was this person in an isolated one classroom, and we can get that classroom cleaned and sanitized and disinfected that evening and we'll be all set? Or do we need a temporary closure of a single building? Or is it going to be more widespread if we end up getting a larger number of cases? If a student or a staff member shows symptoms while in the building, there's kind of two steps. If they go to their healthcare provider and they are not diagnosed with COVID-19, the regular rule applies. So in general, if you have a fever, if you have symptoms, vomiting, upset stomach, anything like that, you are allowed to return to school after 24 hours without a fever, again, not using any fever reducing medications, and then 24 hours with no fever and with you're feeling better again, that's when is our standard practice for returning to school. So that stays the same, that you will return after that 24-hour period if your healthcare provider says, nope, it's not COVID. If you are diagnosed and have a positive test result for COVID-19, the CDC guidelines are that you can return with these three satisfactions are met. So it's 10 days since the initial, the individual has their first symptoms, 3 days since you've had a fever, and 3 days since your symptoms have begun to improve, which includes everything from coughing to shortness of breath and the other symptoms. And that will be when you're cleared to come back to in-person learning in our school building and for students or teachers.
And again, we would be working very closely on cases in that situation with the Department of Health, which would be providing us the guidance as well to confirm that a staff member or a student could return back to school. Thank you, Marcella.
Yep.
I think we can go to the next slide, Mindy. And now Steve Murata, our facilities manager, is going to speak a little bit about the added cleaning and disinfecting procedures that we are putting in place.
Thank you, Suzanne. As you look at this slide, our disinfecting and cleaning and making the building safe is really twofold. Part of it is filtering out particulate that might be in the air. We do that by two things. One is increasing our ventilation, which was a recommendation of the CDC, which we have currently done. We have a building automation system that allows us to set our incoming ventilation to whatever it is we need it to be. So we've increased that twofold, and we've also started to use a higher capacity filter in our unit ventilators and our air handler units. So we're actually trapping more of the contaminants as the air is being filtered through the HVAC system. So as you see here, ventilation by ASHRAE standards was 15 cubic feet per minute per student in a classroom. We've increased that to 30 cubic feet per minute. So we're effectively doubling what ventilation what fresh air we're bringing in. We're also increasing the cleaning that we're doing both on a daily basis, and we're doing more detailed cleaning on a weekly basis. Again, as you look at the slide, classrooms will be cleaned daily, and we will thoroughly disinfect the classroom every week. That will be done on Wednesdays in most instances. In K through 5 classrooms, we're working out a schedule where we may rotate through the building. You know, the classrooms have the same cohort every day, and if a student is assigned their own particular desk, it doesn't necessarily need to be a wholesale, everything's cleaned on one particular night. So we're rotating through, looks like we're going to be rotating through the grades K through 5 on a weekly basis, but it won't necessarily be on Wednesday. Restrooms are cleaned and have been cleaned and disinfected daily. We're going to increase the disinfecting that we're doing in the bathrooms to include some frequent disinfecting in those restrooms throughout the day as well, trying to make those areas where there might be more frequent passage of students a little safer. Cafeterias will be cleaned daily and disinfected weekly. Libraries cleaned daily and disinfected weekly as well. So basically, areas of assembly, we're going to do a thorough disinfecting on a weekly basis. But if there's opportunities with the staff, the additional staff that we're bringing in during the day, we'll also wipe down those common touch surfaces as much as we can, as much as time permits. It really is going to be a function of who's where and how frequently they change for us to be able to assess really where we need to put our efforts to do the most good. As you see, playgrounds were referring to the CDC guidance, which we're doing for all of these cleaning practices. Buses, we had talked about, or Mike had talked about with the operations part of things. Nurse's office are cleaned and disinfected on a daily basis, already have been prior to this. And I would say that, again, it's a high traffic area that with the staff that we're bringing in during the day, we'll also try to work with the nurse to be able to get in there and disinfect as much as we can to enhance what she may be doing already anyway. Again, high touch surfaces are really key. So it's crash bars, panic hardware, doorknobs, countertops. They're going to be disinfected frequently throughout the day. And again, in the evenings prior to this pandemic, we started to implement disinfecting of high touch surfaces with, I believe it was MRSA back in 2008 or 9 or 6, whatever it was, where those commonly touched surfaces, doorknobs, frames, door frames around the doorknobs, panic hardware, glass, all of that, all of those surfaces are disinfected on a nice nightly basis as part of our normal cleaning operations. So we're going to enhance that by doing more of that throughout the day, and hopefully the facilities are able to accept staff and students and keep things as healthy as possible.
Thanks, Steve. I just
You're
want to add, oh, can we jump back 1 second? I just want to add a note about the playgrounds. We have had consultation with the Department of Health. I've also consulted with the superintendents around not only Columbia County, but in the Cap region. And we have been advised that playgrounds are low risk because they are outside. And so we are going to be building in recess for kids. We think it's essential to get them out of the classroom. However, we're going to be setting up designated areas outside. So we'll have 3 distinct areas with 1 class in each of the areas, so that the kids are not all together, all of 1st grade, all of 2nd grade, as we typically would do out on the playground at once. So we will definitely have time for kids to be out and getting fresh air and running around and being kids. Okay, our next slide is our Mental Health and Social Emotional Well-Being Committee. And I want to thank Tim Farley, our middle school principal, and Peg Warner, our special education director, who chaired this also very important committee. As we know, this has taken a toll on not only the adults, but certainly our children. And we want to support them the best we can. You can see, again, we had a really diverse group of parents and school counselors, psychologists that contributed to our plans for supporting our kids, not only to keep them healthy and to keep them educated, but also their mental health and social emotional well-being. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Peg Warner, our special education director.
Thank you, Mindy. I had to mute myself because I've got dogs and all that stuff going, you know? Okay, so yes, I want to also thank everybody, the parents and all the staff that have been contributing to our subcommittee. We met even again today. Like you said, Suzanne, this document is fluid and we're still meeting. The good news is that we've already started some of these things before COVID-19 in terms of supporting our kids' social, emotional well-being. So when we started this subcommittee, we developed a tiered system of supports that we adapted from the NASP School Adjustment Risk Matrix. And from there, we were going to dive into the different supports and different levels that we can provide kids. We already have trained our staff, mostly teachers, in terms of trauma and what it looks like in the classroom, how to kind of basically respond to the basics of it, but we're gonna amp that up and go further. So we have 2 psychologists who are now turnkey trainers in Peaceful Kids program, which is a program that takes it to the next step on really how to, manage trauma and teach kids skills before it gets to that level. So problem solving, understanding the stress responses, different types of learning in terms of anxiety, and really building emotional resilience. So we're going to train all staff in terms of K-12, Peaceful Kids was already trained to counselors and psychologists this September. Now we're going to take it to the next level and get it into the classroom. So Peaceful Kids really focus on 4 to 6 kids in sessions who are maybe at a tier 2 level of support. This is going to go back to tier 1 support for the whole classroom. And so they're going to train them in terms of a whole curriculum, lesson plans, guided meditations, a binder of resources that they can really implement in the classroom. On top of that, the guidance from SED has told us that we need to also provide how to trauma-informed instruction to our transportation, to our cafeteria staff, and our TAs. So we're going to provide some of that as well. And then we also have some PD that we're going to offer parents. Parents are going to have some training in terms of how do they identify students who may need support for, for emotional, social, emotional, or mental health needs. We're also going to survey the students, teachers, and parents when they walk in on, what kids may be at risk right now and how to target those kids. We do have data from the school closure in March of kids who were struggling, not just academically, but with engagement and social emotional needs. So we're going to use that as well, and that's going to carry on into our child study team meetings. We are also going to maintain and update the mental health and counseling resource page on our district website. At the last board meeting, the Board of Education approved the K-12 comprehensive school counseling program. We looked at that again. That was required for us to look at that again. So we are making a few revisions to that as well, which will be updated and put on the website in terms of adding more resources to the crisis management section of that plan, including psychologists and our trained staff in therapeutic crisis intervention. Okay, Mindy, can you turn to the next page, please? Thank you. Along with additional supports, we have staff even at the high school who are trained in mindfulness, and we will continue with mindfulness activities school-wide. We thought it was very important that counselors and psychologists visit classrooms in September for kids who have not necessarily had to see them in the past, but may need to see them now that they've been through this, and let them know how to access them. They will have more office hours. We will increase the time of therapy dogs in the classrooms. And counselors will be also supporting students more at the K-5 level in additional curriculum, which is Mind Up, which is also built on meditation, mindfulness, dealing with anxiety, and reducing stress. Thank you.
Okay, so that concludes our the committee's report out and the main areas of our reopening plan. And so our next steps, as you can see, just to remind everybody, our actual plan is not fully due until Friday, where we will go into the business portal for SED and submit it and post it officially, a much longer and fuller document than the presentation you saw tonight with more specifics. Our primary goal in creating this plan is to have all students participate in school. We tried to make this as safe as possible. Hopefully that was apparent through our presentation. However, we do understand that after reviewing the district's plan, there may be parents and guardians who have concerns about their child's ability to return to school for in-person learning. And we are asking that they contact their child's building principal as soon as possible, but no later than August 14th. The district will then review each individual need and look at them on a case-by-case basis and work with the family to address the specific concerns. You can imagine that it's essential for us to now gather accurate information as quickly as possible so that we can plan effectively for all students. We are currently investigating options for supporting students that are unable to return. So I don't have a definitive answer. This is very much gonna depend on the numbers and not only for students who have medical compromising issues, but also the number of staff. And so once we have all that information gathered, then we can really determine the best path forward. And I would anticipate that by mid-August, we would be able to update and with that information. So if we go to the next slide, at this time, we are going to open it up for question and answer. I want to also let everyone know that if we are unable to get to your question, we're going to open it up for, I think, 15 or 20 minutes. That you can also submit any questions, any feedback to Mindy Potts, and her email is on the screen. She is the board clerk, and she will be collecting all of those questions. We will also be scheduling virtual building level presentations for Wednesday, August 12th. So there will be one at the primary from 5 to 6, one at the middle school from 6 to 7, and one at the high school from 7 to 8, where they will be able to go into some more specifics about the building plans, because every building is a little bit different, although we've tried to keep it as consistent as possible. And we will use the questions that we receive and the feedback to help guide those presentations. And depending on the number of questions we get, we may post a Q&A if we see a lot of similar questions, or if they're very individualized questions, we'll follow up with people directly one-on-one to address those concerns. So if you take a look on your screen, you should have a chat feature. I believe it's on the right, or it may be at the bottom of your screen, which is where it is on mine. And you can type in questions, and Mindy Potts will be sharing the questions, and then myself, as well as the task force members, can respond to the ones that we have answers for right now. As you can imagine, some of the real specific logistics on this, we're still in works of finalizing the details.
Suzanne, if I can, before we take questions from the community folks, and maybe we give them some time to start to type in their questions in the chat feature, why don't we see if there's any questions from board members?
Sure.
I've got a question. This is Sue Ramos. For those students who are